Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we have a brand new guest talking about their journey through the world of martial arts. My guest this week, I first made aware of, if you listened to my episode a few weeks back with Carmichael Simon, kind of the same spot, the Diamond Nationals Karate Tournament down in Bloomington, Minnesota. I saw this competitor, and she was just amazing. One of my favorite weapons is the bow staff, and watching her compete, I mean, she was one of the most dominant female competitors in the mid to late 90s, and her instructor, who we'll hopefully talk a little bit about too, Mike Bernardo, is considered one of the best bow practitioners to ever compete, and she definitely is right up there with him in my opinion. So very excited to have on the show today, Casey Marks-Nash. How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a quiet evening, so that's good. I have 3 kids, so it's a quiet evening. That's a good thing.
Oh.
So, well, kind of like with all my guests, what we like to do is go back to the beginning. What I'd like to know is, where did that first spark come? That first interest in martial arts, kind of what led to that? You know, what age, if you remember, and was it you or was it your parents? Just talk a little bit about that.
It's actually funny. My brother is what got me into martial arts in the first place. We lived in a small town just outside of Myrtle Beach, and my brother had wanted to take martial arts for a while because it was around the time where like Ninja Turtles were coming out. And it was just something that he really wanted to be involved with, but there were no schools in our general area. So my dad got transferred to Asheville, North Carolina, and kind of as a trade-off for moving, that was one of the deals my parents made was when we get there, we'll find a school. So I don't even think we had boxes unpacked, and he was already on them about, okay, when can we go? So we found a local school there close to us, and we went in, and they had, like most schools do, they have their try a class, whatever the package is. Mm-hmm. And I ended up trying it with him. And I remember telling my mom and dad afterwards that I didn't really care what he wanted to do. I wanted to do it.
Nice.
Yeah. So we both ended up joining that school.
Okay.
And I don't know, going back a bit, the head instructor of that organization was actually a gentleman named Roger Jones. Oh. And he actually ran a NASKA tournament in North Carolina. So we had I don't even think we had, I want to say we were still white belts because we didn't compete at the event, but we went to his tournament as a spectator. And as a spectator, actually walked out with a trophy because there happened to be a division with nobody in it. And we were just in the right place at the right time. So we got a gift. Very cool. But that evening, Mike Bernardo competed. And I remember watching him in the final show. And again, we'd never been to anything like this before. Right. And I just told my mom, I said, I want to be able to do that. Like what he just did, I want to be able to do. And she said, okay. So that kind of got the ball rolling for us as kind of, I guess, to set goals, which I think a lot of kids at different ages forget how important that is. But that moment for me really helped set some really clear goals of what I wanted to do. And then I was lucky to have parents that could help me facilitate that. And my brother competed as well. And it just became, it became what it turned out to be today, 30 some years later.
Nice. So that very first class then, what was it about that class? What made you say, I want to do this?
I think even to this day, the big draw for me to martial arts is it almost feels like a whole bunch of puzzles. There's the physical aspect, there's the application aspect, there's the repetition of it to find the perfection. But at the same time, I love the fact that I don't have to rely on someone else to find in myself my own application or my own interpretation of what we're doing. And I had played, I played softball and random things, but I guess it was just the speed of it, the energy in the room, and then the fact that I could move at my own pace in a classroom setting, but still feel very much like an individual in control of the experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. But,
that makes perfect sense.
I've actually had the conversation with a lot of people as I've gotten older, and you have family, you have kids, and everything. I've actually tried to find stuff to replace the martial arts.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. And everything I've tried, I'm like, well, like I asked for and got a bike one year, and I'm like, well, this is boring because my brain is in so many different places, and I can't do anything with my arms, and I'm like I'm stuck. I did rock climbing for a while, like indoor stuff, and I just haven't found anything that encompasses so many different elements at the same time. And I think it's a sport you can grow with as well. There's a lot of athletic endeavors that I feel we get to a point as we age that we can no longer participate. And I think that the martial arts is amazing in the way that it lets you really cater to where you are in that place in your life, not only mentally, but physically as well. And then emotionally, like, there are days where you're not in the mood to do a certain type of practice. Like, how do I say it? There are days where I just don't feel like sparring. I'd rather just run kata by myself, or there's days where I'm really in the mood to collaborate with someone else. And there's that creative side of it as well. And it's just a constant revolving door of improvement that I guess I'm just addicted to.
Okay. Do you remember what was that first style you took?
So it was a blend of karate and Aikido.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which was really interesting because it gave us a unique base. But then working with Bernardo, he's more traditional. They're Shorin-ryu, so that was a totally different look. But I think the self-defense aspect of doing the Aikido side of it really helped translate into some of the performance aspect of application.
Okay. And do you remember how long did you stay at that first school? And at that school, did you get into competition at the time?
Yes. So we competed under them. That would have been 1990. I'm going to date myself. When we started. And then I was with them until 95.
Okay.
95, we branched off and we actually opened our own school with one of the original instructors from that franchise, then ran it on our own. And then after I graduated high school, it just became too much to kind of run myself. I mean, it's a lot to take on at that age.
Right.
So then that's shortly thereafter I ended up in Canada.
So then what was it is that the whole reason you went to Canada was to train with Mike?
I had been training. So NASKA used to have some amazing Friday night seminars because there weren't as many divisions Friday night. It was pretty much just, I remember it just being team fighting. And then they would set up their guest instructors would come in and do seminars. So that first year that we competed would have been 91, that we actually tried to follow kind of the NASKA tour and get our feet wet. And any seminar that man offered, I was at. I think there were points where he got tired of seeing my face. But I didn't care. Like, it could be the same material, term after term, and it didn't matter to me. I wanted to hear it. And then it actually created a relationship to where we got invited to come up to his school. So I came up for summer camps, which is where I met a lot of amazing people like Claire Koza, Dwayne Blair, if anybody knows that name. Dwayne's awesome. Russ Taylor, a lot of the guys that trained there at Bernardo's school. We would come up for odd just training sessions through the year. He came down to our school a couple of times over the next few years. And then, it was just like a back and forth. And it's funny, like, being able to come up here and be closer to him was actually a big draw for me. But I, unfortunately, with, life gets in the way, and I haven't been to his school as much as I 100% would have liked. But
so now, did you ever was it always bow staff for you, or did you ever try any other weapons in competition?
To actually compete with in front of other people, no. It's always been the bow. I've done like demos with other weapons. Okay. My brother and I used to do random stuff at you get your like karate demos at the mall and your fairs and stuff, but the bow was always my favorite. I did a little bit with the sword as my brother was learning it. Okay. Just to be able to kind of, in a lot of ways, kind of piggybacked on some of his sessions to be able to reinforce what he was doing. And then I think you luck out a lot being exposed to other individuals and other competitors when you're on the team with them. Like I've done nunchuck stuff with Matt Inning, which was absolutely amazing. Some of the soft style competitors over the years have shown us little tidbits of stuff here and there to kind of indulge our curiosity. But as far as competing, no, I've only ever competed with the bow.
And then do you remember you don't have to like a date or anything, but do you remember your first time on the main stage at a NASKA event and just kind of what that first experience was like up on that main event on a Saturday night?
I want to say, and I probably could be wrong, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to tell me I'm wrong, but I remember it being the tournament in Denver, the Mile High Classic that Steve Oliver ran. That would have been, I want to say it was 93 or 94, somewhere in there. Because I remember finally winning the division. I mean, it was 93. And it was the first time. Now it's kind of like uncharted waters, right? You don't really know what to do. You don't know what's expected of you. Like, what time do you have to be back? And I remember, I don't know if you know the name Dave McCumber, but he was competing at the time. Yeah, in the men's division, which that was actually the division I watched the most, was Mike's division, obviously. And some of the guys in there, John Marshall's in that group. There's a lot of really good bow practitioners in there. But competing and being around as often as we were, of course, your parents, make friends with a lot of these athletes so they don't think that you're like stalking them because you're always at the ring. But I remember him, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, like what time he told me, but he gave me some like ridiculous time frame when I was expected to be back for the finals. And my silly self totally believed it. Mom, we got to be back here for this time. And she's like, no, there's no way. So she actually was like, yeah, he's completely kidding with you. That's not what time you're supposed to be there. But yeah, it's surreal the first couple of times, like, and not even just as a young competitor that way, but I remember like certain points across the way where even as an adult, where you literally feel like you're a rookie again, just because of the way that the event unfolded. Like for me, I'm going to jump. Kentucky was one of those. The first year, I actually might have been the very first time that I beat Ming Lu in the daytime and made it on stage. I don't even remember what I did in the finals because I don't really care. It was like, it didn't matter because I'd gotten past the daytime. It was great. And I got to stand next to John Valera. And I'm like this little kid in a candy store all over again, right? And shell-shocked and starstruck and the whole nine. And then you realize afterwards, you're like, yeah, I maybe should have focused a little bit more.
So what was the big difference when you jumped from the I guess it would be the kid events to the adult events? What was kind of the big difference in those events?
Oh man, I think the pressure changes a little bit. Like obviously as a junior, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I put a lot of pressure on myself that last year in 15, 17, almost to my demise, if you want to say that, because if I jump back to that experience, last year as a junior was brutal. It was my first year with Paul Mitchell. So that was a lot of like indirect pressure because you want to live up to everybody else's expectations, plus your own expectations, plus, any goals that you have still left before you jump up. And I had a lot of trouble. I think I dropped in the daytime, it was like 4 tournaments in a row.
Oh, wow.
Which for NASKA is an automatic DQ, right? You don't get a restart. You don't get to go on. You're out, which is tough to swallow. And one of them happened to be right in front of Coach Rodriguez. And I thought, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to be off the team before I even started. And to go back to our segue over to the camaraderie that you have with some of these athletes, one of the parents of another competitor that wasn't even in my division, she was the division below us, but the dad just is one of those dads that's at all these tournaments. And he actually came up to me at the US Open. I dropped it again. And he said, I was thinking of you and I got this for you. And he hands me this book. And I'm thinking I'm really upset right now because I just screwed up and he's handing me a book. But it's actually called Thinking Body, Dancing Mind. And it's a Teo sports book about the mental side of athletics and how you can apply the mental to both relationships, sports, and your career. And it changed my entire outlook on the rest of that season and going forward. And anybody that's in any kind of slump, I always recommend it because it really changed how I attacked what I was doing and the pressure that I put on myself at that point. And just to turn it around, I ended up finishing that season first in weapons, first in forms, first in sparring, overall weapons, overall female competitor. I was next to John Sue for Sportsmanship Award of the Year, or whatever it was that he got that year. But it was a huge flip. So I think I carried some of that confidence and mental adjustment over into the adult division. But now you're back to being the small fish, right?
Yeah.
And you got a lot of these people that you've looked up to for how many years, right? Like I said, like now you've got the potential to stand next to a John Valera on the stage and a Suzanne Wankett and competing directly against Ming Lu, which was a nightmare. But yeah, so there's that shell shock period and that reassessment because, you know, they've got experience on their side. Sparring was definitely hard because that was a much different beast as far as the amount of contact, I guess, was different for me.
Mm-hmm.
Dottie White set me down a couple times, but yeah, I think everybody walks into it, and there is that period of relearning what you need to do to take that next step forward and win. And I had been competing against for weapons. The boys and girls were together,
right?
For the juniors. Yeah, we were all together, and I gotta say, like that 15 to 17 division was always the best.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. You can't get that now. Like I look at some of the tournaments and you kind of look and go, yeah, you know, you got your top three. Like at any given time, you had, you know, 8 to 10 kids that could take that division just based on how the day went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah, that was always our favorite, was the the junior division, watching them.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
I still remember I'm gonna draw a blank. Ashley Lane.
Yes.
Her bow staff to a kung fu. I want to say she was like 11 when she did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I still have that VHS somewhere too, and I'll go back and watch those. It's you know, for me, coming from a traditional martial arts background, our tournaments weren't like that. So my first time seeing the Diamond Nationals, I was kind of blown away. I didn't know what to expect going there, and yeah, it's definitely an experience. And NASKA tournaments kind of unlike anything else. So.
It is a different beast. The showmanship's just so different, right?
Definitely. So do you remember the first time maybe a little kid or someone, or maybe even an adult, asked you for your autograph after a tournament?
Oh my gosh. I should be able to say yes to that, but I don't. Is that bad? That's really bad.
Not necessarily. I mean, some people remember it, some don't.
I always found that people asked at really weird times. Like I used to be like on deck, ready to, like I'm next, and people would come up and be like, "We have a photo," and I'm like, really? I can't say no. Sure, like, yep, okay. I'll be back in like, give me a minute and a half. But I do remember though, as a kid, like 13, 14, because they used to. Do you remember at the nighttime final show, they used to those autograph booklets?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like on the back of the program was the sheet, and we would all run around and we'd get, you know, everybody might chat and you get all these guys to sign it. And I don't remember the exact event, but it is neat when you first get asked, because then you realize like you got to start practicing that signature. Like that's harder than it looks.
Yep. That is true. I know the first time I met Ernie Reyes Jr. at the Diamond Nationals year, I think him and his father were honored or something like that. But I actually, the first time I met him was actually in the bathroom, and a little kid was asking for his autograph in the bathroom. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait and talk to him when he gets outside.
Yeah. It's time and a place, guys.
I should have asked him, has that ever happened before? But I didn't. So it probably has. Who knows? I want to back up a little bit. You had mentioned you kind of helped run a school when you were in high school. So what drew you to teaching? What made you want to teach martial arts, especially at that age?
Well, I started helping out at the school we were, like our original school, when I was like between 12 and 13 years old. And I think I kind of got pulled into that a little bit because we had been traveling and training with guys like Mr. Bernardo. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of that, like, what have you learned? What can you show us? Or what did he say? That kind of stuff. And so that kind of got the ball rolling, because nobody really was, well, like you said earlier, he's amazing. And nobody was really doing what he was doing at the time. He was kind of taking that traditional weapons aspect and making it cool, like changing up the pace and the speed. And it really left its mark on a lot of people, and they wanted to know, like, what is he showing you? So we actually would have like small little sessions with some of the like adults from our karate school that were teaching at other locations, going, you know, show us. And it just, I guess I liked the fact that I could, one, help out and give back, and two, it really shows you how much you understand and retain and comprehend when you can regurgitate it and explain it to someone else.
Right.
Which is, a lot of our parents that look to getting their children involved in a leadership program at school. And they go, they need volunteer hours. I'm like, well, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's like, watch what they're about to learn about themselves and how they interact with other people the second you ask them to teach something. And I think that really brought out, I didn't realize that I would be any good at it. And then I think you get that feedback from people that tell you that they appreciate what you did or it really made a difference. And then you start seeing people get it. And even today, like I had a session with a couple of kids and when they have those, we call them light bulb moments, where all of a sudden you can literally see it in their eyes that they just figured out what you've been telling them, and light bulb goes on. It's like, it makes it worth it. Right.
Right.
But yeah, I know I kind of got, not to say shoved into it, but put in that role to pass on what I was learning from him, because I was one of the only ones traveling to work with him. And then when the opportunity came to open a location under our head instructor, my parents were right there going, yeah, we'll do it. We got somebody to be the head instructor. She's going to help as an assistant instructor. My brother taught. My mom taught at the school.
Wow.
Yeah. So my mom was in charge of all the kinder classes. Thank God. Yeah. Not something you wanted me teaching at 13, 14 years old.
See, like my daughter, when she was that age, she loved teaching the little kids. That was her favorite part, was the little kids. I'm like, oh, you go ahead. I don't want to. I didn't mind it, but I preferred a little older or adults.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't understand them, right? Like I'd never really interacted with kids that little, and they definitely learn in different ways. And I think you have to be aware, regardless of the age, you have to be aware of how your athlete learns.
Right.
And how can you as an instructor facilitate bringing out their strengths, and how can you get through to them? And it takes a unique person to deal with, 20 little 3-year-olds.
That is true. It's definitely not for everybody. So
no, 100%.
So how do you think your teaching styles changed over the years?
Wow. I think the relationship has changed. When I first started teaching, it was obviously a lot of reps, and just my martial arts experience along the way has changed with what it takes to get an athlete where you want them to be. And I think we copy and emulate who we learn from. And as I'm sure you can attest to, the teaching of martial arts has evolved a lot in the last 30 years. There are things that we could do 30 years ago that you cannot do today.
That is true.
Right? Like it's kind of frowned upon, some of the stuff that we were put through as kids.
Oh yeah.
So that's changed, and you have to find different ways to try to get that same result. Like how do you teach toughness when you can't be as physical as maybe we were back then, right? So I think finding other ways around that, I've had to adapt. I think we grow. Obviously, I know more now than I knew then, which gives me more avenues to get through to different types of learners and different types of obstacles that you face with different kids, based on age, based on ability level, based on injuries. I have a much different respect for adults and how their bodies react to certain drills now that I'm kind of in the same boat.
Yep.
But I think not necessarily, I don't want to say I was a mean instructor, but there is that kind of stereotype where it's very, very hard. And I'm a little bit more relaxed with the kids now than I guess I was then.
So you were never like a John Kreese, probably, maybe not quite that bad.
No.
I know my instructor always, when I interviewed him on my show last year, he actually said, his quote was, he said, if I taught like I did in the 90s, I'd have almost no students. And if I taught like my instructor did in the early 80s, I'd probably be in jail. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
I heard so many stories of his instructor, like if a kid didn't bow properly or something like that, just smacking him upside the head. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
And yeah, you'd be in jail for that right now.
Yeah. Well, I remember my first adult class that we got invited to, and I want to say I was 12, but we had been doing a lot of stuff, and it was a smaller school, so we got invited to come, and that did not go over well with the adults in the class. So any of the contact drills, it was very much like, we really hope you don't come back.
Wow.
So So I remember standing in front of, because as a female, even then they tried to, if they could, pair you up with another female just out of courtesy.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it is one of the drills where you stand there, horse stance position, hands on your head, and they throw their straight punch from the horse stance to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a conditioning drill, right? So they've got to make sure they're hitting with the proper part of the hand, and you got to understand and absorb what that feels like, and just getting hammered. And that's, I will admit, I have tried similar drills and they're not as well received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a variation, we've done that with kids classes. So we'll actually put the padded chest protectors on them, and we'll put two of them on, and we'll put a balloon in between the chest protector and them. And the goal is to try to pop your partner's balloon. So it's, they got the padding for it there, and it's a little more fun to it, but it's still a good workout. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, my instructor's really good at disguising games as exercise, so the kids don't realize they're exercising.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm going to steal it.
Oh, feel free. Yeah, that one and roundhouse baseball are probably the two favorite games. Actually, that roundhouse baseball and penguin soccer. Penguin soccer is fun, but it can also be dangerous if you don't have a big enough spot. Basically, the kids tie their feet together and they get one of these big balls that's like, probably about 3 feet wide. It's just a huge playground ball, and they're basically they have to hop because their feet are tied together and kick it with only their feet. They can't use their hands, and they're playing soccer. So
wow.
Yeah, but we tried that with the adults one time. That gets a little full contact. So
yeah, any game with adults turns into full contact right away.
Yeah, always. But yeah, like I said, the punching one at the balloon, that's one of my favorites to do. So we do that with the adults too, but it's so much fun with the kids. So I always get a kick out of that. So speaking of kids, you mentioned you had. So do your kids do martial arts?
They did.
Okay.
So I have two boys.
Okay.
Nathan is 13 and Caleb is 10. Nathan started karate when he was 2.5.
Wow.
And he's just an athletic kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's just one of those kids, and he took to it really well. And then Chelsea, my husband's sister, was getting into extra training for the combat games, and she was doing some wrestling classes. And she said, they have a kids program. Do you want to bring him down? And I said, yeah, okay, let's go. So Trevor and I took him down. I think he was 4, and wrestling is now, he absolutely loves it. That is. So he kind of left karate behind. He got to orange belt.
Okay.
And then wrestling just held his interest above everything, like being able to get his hands on somebody and manipulate somebody, and just the whole aspect, everything about it fits his personality. So he started, which is great. And even if I talk to parents a lot that, look at the long-term of martial arts, even if they only do it for a little bit, they're still going to get something out of it. And what he got from that young up to 4, just the social skills and interacting with other grown-ups, and you can't take it away. I wouldn't change it at all. And I think every kid should at some point participate in some capacity, a martial art.
Agreed.
Caleb, our younger
100%.
Yeah. Caleb, our younger son, did it too, and he started a little bit later. I think he was 5 when he started. Did a couple tournaments with sparring, just kind of more like a recreational point fighting. Mm-hmm. He enjoyed it, but it wasn't his passion. And then unfortunately, when COVID hit and it kind of impacted everybody's training schedules and stuff, he kind of fell out of the habit with it. And it's just not necessarily his passion. But again, there's some skills that he did pick up that I'm glad he gave it a shot. I think maybe down the road he might bring it up again, but a little bit of football, which is great too, translates over into what we do. And then my husband, Trevor, played football all through high school. So he's now coaching their team, which is amazing. Yeah. So keeps us busy for sure.
See, I could never coach. I got asked when my son was doing T-ball or something if I would coach as a parent because they needed coaches. And I said, I have one question. I said, if the kids, because I went to one game and the kids they'd fight over the ball. They'd push each other to catch the ball on the same team. And I said, if the kids misbehave, can I give them push-ups? No, parents will complain. Then find a different coach. Exactly. If I can't give a kid 10 push-ups for misbehaving because the parents are going to complain, no. Yeah. Like you said, I agree. I think and not just kids. I just think everyone at some point in their life should try martial arts. it's.
And if we go off that, I think every parent that has a child in martial arts should give it a try.
Yes.
Because I think it will change their outlook on what is happening. Any sport, really.
Yeah.
That I think as a parent, you should at least attempt it to understand how many things are happening at the same time. I think they would really appreciate what their child is going through.
That's actually another thing my instructor started, because he's out for like 20 years. He's always done, or 25 probably, bring a friend to class day for the kids. And about 5-6 years ago, I think it was, he started doing bring your parent to class day. And he'll do like once or twice a year and get the parents to come to class with the kids. And that's always fun.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, one, how many parents end up realizing how much they also enjoy it.
Yep.
And two, how many of them now have a different response on the sidelines when, Junior's not doing exactly what he's supposed to do, because now they have a little bit more understanding about the what goes into it, right? Like,
agreed. I'd love to see it in the public school system. I've been saying that for 30 years. I mean, I know some people have tried it and some people have had luck locally in some areas, but I'd love to see it nationally in our public school system. Such an important thing, and I don't know if I'll ever see it in my lifetime, but I can keep dreaming.
Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about Mike Bernardo. I mean, obviously, like I said, he's a legend, especially with the Bow Staff. He's done movies. I'm actually on the waiting list to have him on my show. I think he's fairly busy, but I'm supposed to contact him in January. So I'm hoping to get him on the show in January. With fingers crossed, it'll be really cool. I'd love to. I probably have an autograph from him somewhere in a book. I still remember the movie Shoot Fighter that he was in.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. But just talk a little bit about him and that experience, and just kind of, like you said, you saw him when you were pretty young and kind of blew you away, and that's why you decided what you wanted to do. Just talk just a little bit about training with him and what that experience is like.
Let's see, how do you sum that up? He's an amazing person that I think a lot of people throughout the competitive side didn't really see his personality, because he's very private and quiet. And I think a lot of us that kind of keep to ourselves, people wonder why, and they must be, I don't say stuck up, but that's kind of what people assume. And he is everything but. Like, he is absolutely hilarious.
Really?
I don't think a lot of people know, when you get him in the right situation, how funny he is. So we used to come up for camps, and you'll have to ask him when you get him on the show. But he is a Elvis Presley fan like no other.
Really? Ooh, awesome.
Yes.
Me too. I'll actually enjoy talking.
Are you really?
Oh,
okay, yeah. So now you'll have some stuff to talk about. But
nice.
So it came up that there was a lot of jokes and stuff, and joshing back and forth with the Elvis love. And I remember being at summer camp, and I think it was Brent Beatty. Brent Beatty was there, Brian Brunel, Brian Ruth was there, Chris Casamassa, John Marshall. I don't know if any of those names ring a bell, but
oh yeah.
They brought in a bust, like an upper body bust of Elvis Presley, and put it on a podium in the middle of the dojo floor.
That's awesome.
And so it became like the funny thing every day that you had to bow and pay homage to Elvis. And yeah, so he's got a really interesting sense of humor when you can get past the professionalism, because he is very professional with how he carries himself. And he was, because of the age gap, and to obviously instructor to student, more on a friend level with my parents, which is, I think, how it should be. I think you have to preserve that coach and athlete relationship.
Right.
Just, they need to view them in a certain way, right? We're not there to be friends. We're there to be coaches. But he came down to our school one year and did a seminar at the same time. We brought in Chris Casamassa, who they were best friends. And Chris was coaching my brother with creative forms, and the two of them together. Yeah, I oh my God. So they couldn't get over the fact that you had to pay for air if you want to put air in your tires.
Really?
Yeah. So he's like, what do you mean? You got to pay for air? We're like, yeah. Like, so Chris is from California, so we had stopped to get air in the tires of the van. I don't even know why. Well, obviously because he needed it, but so that was the thing. He was going to go out and he put the couple quarters or whatever in the machine, and he's going to put air in the tires. And Chris starts laughing, and he's like, just watch this. Okay. So we're nice and quiet in the car, because, obviously they're adults. You're trying to be respectful. And he yells out the window. He's like, all right, Mike, we're good. Just go ahead and turn it off. I'm like, what do you mean turn it off? It's like, you got to turn it off. Like, Mike, so now Chris is like, the volume's getting higher, and he's more urgent. So now Mike Bernardo is running around the air pump, trying to find the cutoff valve, having no clue that it's on a timer. It automatically, you only put 2 quarters in, it's going to turn off, freaking out. That's awesome. This thing is going to explode because we have to pay for air in America.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the two of them together just a riot. But there's a lot of times like training where you're slightly obviously intimidated because whatever he said goes, right? Like I was never one of those kids that talked back or argued, but definitely would afterwards kind of try to take what they give me and put my own spin on it, which I think is another thing I love about being able to do sport martial arts is the creative side of it.
Right.
And he definitely kind of encouraged me to do that, but tried to keep me true to the application and the fact that even though we're kind of pushing the boundaries on what we can do, it still needs to have the essence of where you started. So I definitely appreciate that as a lesson because I think that it's something that is timeless and unfortunately is a little bit forgotten with today's competitors.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate that with him. But yeah, I will say that if I go back to him as a coach, he's definitely funnier than people realize.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you said you started in a blend of karate and aikido, and then did you actually train in some shorin-ryu with Mike, or was it strictly just weapons? And is there any other styles you've trained in over the years?
So when we were coming up to do camps and stuff with him, I had asked if I could start to learn a lot of the katas because the katas that we did in our style didn't really translate over to competing very well. Same as like, and I absolutely love watching Kimpo forms, but they don't translate over into sport karate tournaments that are open. They're better for tournaments that have specific stylistic divisions.
Right.
So I wanted to learn his katas. So he started out throughout our sessions with the bow. He would also show me the routines that they needed to do through their curriculum. And it actually paid off huge because I competed with more of like a blended creative form from 91 until 97.
Okay.
So yeah, it was like really bad creative, if I could go that way. I did all right. I'm not going to shoot it, but I actually got injured and wasn't able to do the form that I had planned. And my mom said, well, we're here. You have to compete. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I've been doing, the katas with Miss Bernardo. Like I could try to do one of those. Like I think I could do it. She said, okay. So I ran Unsu at I think it was a Gold Coast Classic in Florida. It would have been like, what was it? Tournaments didn't start till like February, whatever. And that was like the turning point for me. I did traditional from then on.
Wow.
And it just, because I got great feedback from the judges, I did better that tournament injured than I've been doing with anything else. And it just kind of clicked that this is a better lane for me. So then, so he took some time and helped me with that side of it. I've done some stuff over the years with, like I said before, some, teammates along the way that have been nice enough to share different aspects of their art, a little bit of Taekwondo here and there just to be able to compete with it, but also to compare principles. I'm doing some Goju-Ryu stuff right now, which I absolutely love.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. And I want to talk a little bit about doing some searches. I found you've done some instructional DVDs over the years. Just talk a little about how that came about and what was that like doing? I see 3 or 4 or 5 maybe that I'm seeing on this Black and Blue Video Productions.
Yeah, I would have been like 15.
Oh, you were that young when you did? Wow.
Yes, because I was still on Metro at the time when we did those.
Okay.
The first one we did was the 3 of us. It was myself, my brother, and Cody Gilbo.
Okay.
And that would have been, Cody was awesome. That would have been like, I want to say that was maybe 90. That would have been like 95.
Yeah, they don't have years on them on here, so I didn't know that. But
yeah, that's kind of scary. It's scary because every now and then I have students that come in and say they saw it, and it's just a little bit traumatizing.
Well, they're still selling them, so they're still on there. I mean, I could add it to the cart and still buy them if I wanted to.
I'm not getting any commission, I'll tell you that.
Oh wow!
No, yeah. So we had done the one together, which was awesome. We did it at Splendid China there before the U.S. Open. They normally would have you come in a little bit early, and they would rent out a spot because the backdrops were just beautiful. Hot as all get out, but amazing. And then the second grouping we did, because they did a lot of athletes at that location, but the second group we did, I had the pleasure of recording the same day as Jimmy Pham.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever get to see Jimmy compete at Diamonds?
At least once or twice. I recognize the name, so I'm sure I saw him at least once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal competitor, but killed me that day, I will say, because he's a perfectionist, which you have to be as good as he is in martial arts. But he showed up with note cards and flashcards for his script on how he was going to break down his video, where he wanted the clips to start and stop. And then in between each take, make sure his hair looked good and all that stuff. Meanwhile, we're literally baking in the Florida sun in July. And by the time Wally got to me, he was like, okay, Kay, so it's your turn. I'm like, all right. And I remember asking him, like, how much footage do you need? And he goes, about an hour, give or take. I said, okay, whatever happens, just leave the camera on because we're out of here in an hour. Like, I'm sunburnt, like I'm done.
Wow.
And we went, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Like at that time too, I'd been, teaching for 4 years.
Okay.
Mostly bow. So I had a lot of, you kind of know what you need to cover.
Yeah.
And working with, private lessons and all that stuff, you kind of know where you need to be and just break it down and go for it. But it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
I will say it was a lot of fun. And again, I don't even know if Splendid China is still around to be able to go to the museum there, but absolutely amazing. The reproductions of all the models and things that they have.
I'll have to look into that and see if it's still around. That's kind of cool. So what advice would you give to someone who approaches you and they're thinking of getting involved in martial arts? They've never done it before. And you just want to give them some tips on maybe what to look for in an instructor, what to look for in a school, and maybe some things to avoid.
Oh, wow. Anybody that calls our location, I always tell them to go to more than one school because I think you need to know what's out there to compare. I think there are a lot of parents adults looking for that go to the first one or the closest one and just go, it's close to my house, I'll go there. I think you do need to look into different facilities. I think you can tell a lot about a facility based on how clean it is, where their priorities are that way. But you have to mesh with the instructing staff.
Right.
You have to have a school that fits your learning style and that you're comfortable in the environment because there are some amazing coaches that just don't fit right for the athlete. I think that anybody that's considering getting involved, I would 100% say do it. Just find the right school that fits, again, your learning style and your comfort level. Generally, you can tell too when you go in and watch a class, like based on the students that are currently in the facility, what the vibe is like. And I think that all sports are very much a culture. Each, whether it's football or basketball or soccer, you have that I don't want to say cult mentality, but there's that group, there's that family group. And for me, that's definitely something I would look at. Like if the members have that connection to that school, then that's a good sign. And two, like progress. Like I know I've interacted with some instructors in some locations that it's very much my way or the highway.
Yep.
Whether or not you physically can do it will dictate your advancement in the program. And I think depending on where you are in your life, those are things you have to factor in, right? If I'm 55 years old and have bad knees and a bad hip, is that going to be something that my instructor will take into account, right?
Great point.
Yeah, if I'm an adult that's looking for my kid to get involved, is it an environment that follows the values and what I'm looking for as a parent? Because I'm definitely 100% a believer that it takes a village, and we need our parents and our coaches and our teachers saying the same thing to these kids. So I think if you can find a school that keeps the same values and reiterates those values, then you have a home where that kid's going to be successful for a long time.
Nice. That's a great answer. And I think you're about the fourth or fifth guest I've had that have said it takes a village. So that's becoming a recurring theme, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, that's good. That's good. So now, coming from primarily a traditional background, obviously you got into the sport karate too, but most of your training's been in traditional side. What are your thoughts on MMA and the UFC? And are you a fan?
I am a fan. I like the strategy behind it. I like the crossing of genres and different types of contact sports. I like that it's becoming something where you can watch and it's not how to say it. There's a method to the madness. That it's a chess game. There's the announcers can really break down the techniques. The general audience can get an appreciation for what's happening. I enjoy watching it. I like the matchups. I'm not one that really likes all the trash talking ahead of time to lead into the fights. I could do without all that.
The WWE stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that, but I think it's interesting. Like it's definitely a completely different spin-off from the artistic side of what we do performance-wise.
Right.
But
So was there ever a part of you that thought, maybe I'll give it a try? Ever any inkling of jumping into the cage?
Okay, no.
Okay.
So 90, I would have been 16 again. Wow, a lot of stuff happened back then. My brother went to see the UFC, the second, I believe this was the second one that they had in Charlotte,
Okay.
where Hoist Gracie won.
Yep. It was like 94,
My brother and my brother and my mom were in the audience there,
Wow.
Charlotte.
Okay.
And yeah, he was hooked. He was so excited. That's what he wanted to do with jiu-jitsu. So again, supportive parents said, okay, how do we do this for him? How do we get him in contact with some of these guys? And they found where at the time, because of his reputation, Hoist was doing quite a few seminars throughout the U.S. So we signed up for one and went and participated in one of the seminars. He actually taught with his wife, who is an amazing individual, I will add.
Wow.
And did some of it. So I definitely like it. I don't think that it's my lane. My brother was very much, I think he ruined it for me, to be honest, because it was come here, let me try this move. And I'm like, oh my God. And you get in these weird pen positions. I'm like, well, what do I do? And he'd be like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, wait a second.
Nice.
You got me pinned on the floor. My arm is so twisted. What do I do? He's like, it doesn't matter. Let me try the technique again. I'm like, oh my God. So I ended up being the dummy for him quite often. But yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's really good for people that are tactile, that can really feed off, similar to judo and wrestling, which again, my guy does, where you're really good at reading the body language as it happens. And I'm not skilled in that, and I'm okay to admit it. That's not my niche. I'm very much more like the perfection of repetition. And I think in that live match, there's so much more happening that deviates from that repetition that my brain doesn't work so well with it. Okay. But he went on. He's still doing it. He's working American Top Team, teaching jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he absolutely loves it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I probably already know the answer to this one, but if you had to pick one martial artist to put at the top of your list for someone you just admire, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I have to pick one? Wow.
You can name more than one. I mean, most people can't pick just one, but I usually ask if they can.
I can name dozens. So if I'm gonna go,
I figured Mike would have been your easy go-to, maybe, but
he would be. But I think, I don't know, there have been so many amazing people. Like, you go from like, okay, am I looking at it from like an athletic perspective, creatively? Like, oh my gosh, there are certain names that instantly pop to mind aside from my mentors, like a John Su.
Oh, yep.
Just as far as the embodiment of what martial arts is meant to be, John is just at the top of that list for me. Because he's one of those guys that's not only like an amazing human being, but an amazing martial artist, and at the same time really embraces the spiritual side of what martial arts is all about. And just he's just an amazing human. He's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. God, there's so many good people. I'm gonna stick with John, I think.
Yeah, like you said, that one usually someone either has a name right there, or they can't narrow it down because there's a lot of them. So that's okay, no problem. All right, so in all your years of martial arts, is there one philosophy you've learned that kind of stands at the top of your list, one that you keep coming back to and is maybe really important to you?
Philosophy. I think one of the big, I guess as an instructor to the kids, it's the process. I think you have to embrace the process. And there's so many different facets to what we do that I don't know how to even verbalize what I'm feeling right now. There's always more you can do. And I think a lot of people get complacent. And as a coach, I feel that it's my role and my responsibility to the athletes I work with to always figure out what's the next step and how do I make it better. And I have some kids that go, well, you correct me a lot. And I go, yeah, because even when you get it, I got to get it one more step. And I think it's just the concept of always striving to take it one step further.
Okay.
And I think that that's something that we can apply to everything that we do, not just martial arts, but, how can I be a better parent? How can you be a better friend? How can you be a better human to your neighbors? Like, how can you be better at everything that you do, instead of the common complacency that we see in a lot of people today, where it's like, good enough. I really dislike the concept of good enough. And I think that it definitely needs to be more of a pushing to be better every day.
I like that. Good answer. All right, these last few kind of fun ones, and some people have answers for each of them. Some maybe just some of them. So it kind of depends. But do you have a favorite martial arts book?
I would say Thinking Body, Dancing Mind.
Nice.
The Teo Sports book for sure.
Cool. I figured you'd mention that one after you brought it up before, so that's a good one. And this one's a new question I started asking, especially for people kind of our age that kind of grew up in the 80s and 90s. Do you have a favorite martial arts video game?
Video game, Street Fighter.
Nice.
Because I used to beat my brother at it all the time. And great. Because we got the whatever the adapter thing you can get, so I can play my own kids now. Nice. And I can beat them and they hate it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I haven't played Street Fighter in years. I need to actually play it again because it's probably been 20 years since I played it.
And you'll probably still be great in it.
I hope so. I was decent. I probably didn't play it as often as you, but I was decent at it. So, all right, final two. Favorite martial arts TV show?
TV show. Would you believe I didn't really watch a lot of martial arts TV shows?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like even like Walker, Texas Ranger, I never really watched.
Okay. What about what about the show that maybe had some of your friends on? Did you watch WMAC Masters when it was on?
I did watch quite a few of those episodes.
Okay.
I gotta say.
So you haven't got into Cobra Kai yet?
No, I'm not gonna call. No, I haven't watched it.
Okay. No problem. Like I said, it's And the last one, do you have a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh, I'm gonna say Best of the Best.
No, I just watched that 2 weeks ago again.
Really?
I love that movie.
Yeah, there's so many like quotes in that too.
I watch it once a year, at least once a year. It's just classic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's cheesy, but it's so good.
No, it is. It's great. Like the training in the snow.
Yep.
And the cowboy. It's great.
Yeah, Christopher Penn.
Yeah.
Yes.
The toilet seat.
Yeah, definitely better than the sequels were okay, but the first one just stands on its own. It's so good. Cool.
Yeah, no, you got to go with the first one.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Casey, I want to thank you. I'm so glad we were able to do this and glad you, and I got to give a shout out to my cousin Tony, because he's the one that suggested that I reach out to you and try to get you on the show. And I'm glad I was able to track you down and you said yes. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And thanks to Tony.
Cool. And I will I'll put anything you want me to share links on the show notes. Just send me links and I'll get them out there for people to check out. And I'll probably track down some of my favorite videos of you competing back in the 90s and put some links from YouTube on there too. So.
Oh, please don't.
No. Come on, there were some amazing ones back then.
Yeah. Oh man.
No. Well, if you have some favorites.
No. You put up whatever you feel.
Cool.
Oh, because I watch it all now and I look and go, oh, I should fix this. I should fix that. Oh, why didn't somebody tell me to fix that? Yeah. Yeah,
but obviously it was good enough to win. So.
Yeah, there you go. We'll go with that.
There we go. Cool. Well, once again, I appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.